Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel and welcome to our London system series. So in this series we're following this very nice opening from White's perspective, and today we're continuing our series with the London system again against this Grunfeld setup that Black can choose. In our previous video we have analyzed this b6 line in which Black is trying to do the double fianchetto style. Today we'll do also b6 line, but with a different idea of Black's, with the positional trades of pieces, with the positional trades of life for bishops. I will explain, of course, what's all about, what are the strategical ideas of Black and how should counterplay these types of setups. So as I always like to mention when we analyze some opening lines, please watch this series from the beginning. So this London series from the introduction video, part 1, part 2, part 3, and so on. So also this previous video in the Grunfeld setup is also very important in order to get a better understanding of this particular video. So let's check out now this setup. So here we are playing our London system setup against the Grunfeld. So as I said, we have g6, bishop to g7 ideas, d5, and now again we'll analyze the idea of Black's with the move b6, but with a different idea, with the idea to play bishop to a6 and get rid of a bad bishop. Because if we have noticed in our previous lines, sometimes Black has the troubles because if he plays b6, let's imagine the position, and bishop to b7, then the bishop is a little bit blocked out. So basically what we want to do is to get rid of a bad bishop for an active bishop of White. So after potential e3, we want to go here from Black's perspective into positional trades of minor pieces, and then keep an active bishop on g7, which is of course good and can aim on this diagonal. So how to counterplay this? Here Black is of course playing the normal bishop to g7. We're playing e3, and today we'll do again the so-called berry attack. This berry attack, I think it's one of the most beautiful openings, really a straightforward opening. You can learn it very easily. Again, we'll play the same setup, and as I said in our previous video, we have also explained this setup. Again, after castling, we have bishop to e2. As I said, bishop to d3 is not so powerful. You may risk this idea to get bishop to g4. That was also explained in my previous video. Then you cannot play the common berry attack move. It's the move knight to e5. So okay, here bishop to e2, and the first instructive game that I wanted to show you today, it's a gameplay by Qd2 versus Kanter, and here after the move b6 we play again our berry attack move, knight to e5 with preparations h5, h4, h5, h takes g6, and maybe bishop to h6, getting the queen somewhere maybe on the h file and creating some checkmate threats. This is of course just an idea. Many things can happen meanwhile, but as a strategical goal, this is now our plan. So h4, h5, and h takes g6. So here Black can try the move c5. As I said, Black doesn't have to play the move bishop to b7. We have analyzed in our previous video this move h4 and then maybe h6. Then this h5 possibility was a great one. I've explained the common tactical ideas in our previous video. What happens if h6 happens? So here Black plays immediately against the center, which is a normal idea. Now we play h4 anyway because that's our berry attack move. And now bishop to a6. Here in this particular game, White simply continues to push. Here h5. This game will be in the description below, so you can maybe analyze it for yourself. And now comes bishop takes e2, queen to e2. As I said, with the move bishop to a6, Black basically got rid of a very, very bad bishop, because if the bishop would have been placed on b7, then it's a little bit blocked out by its own pawn. And now comes the tricky part of this line. So we can see now that we have made really great progress here on the h file. What Black could try is the potential knight to h5 move. So my recommendation is here to go into a positional sacrifice with rook takes h5. I think you can surprise many opponents with this idea. G takes h5. We have queen to h5. We have grabbed a knight and a pawn for the rook. Still, the position is about equal, but I think in this types of position, Black has really troubles. You see now, even in this intermaster level or in this grandmaster level, Black makes many times the mistake. And I've played this position, I think, many times, at least 100 times in my life, and I think I have a good percentage of winning games in this particular line. So after the move h5, e6, the idea is of course to get the queen as a defender here in front of the king, to maybe compete with the queen on h5, and now castling. The problem of Black's is now that Black cannot open the center. You see, although we have challenged the center with c5 and an attack on d4, Black will never be able to open it. So here in the game, queen to f6 was played. We have rook to h1, and now h6. Now comes, of course, the next berry attack move. We want to play g4. The idea is, of course, to play g5 and opening simply the h file. Then we can also create some checkmate threats. Here in the game, c takes d4 was played. We have knight to e2. Taking is not a possibility because you lose your bishop, but now it doesn't even matter because we can still rely on our bishop, and now you see still we have a perfect attack. g5 is basically unpreventable. Whatever black does here in the game, black tried knight to d7, which was a mistake because now comes g5, the queen is endangered, and now after the move queen to f5, we can simply take, and it was game over. So okay, what did here you see this knight to d7. I'm not sure about this move because of course we can take immediately, but the problem is of course a tactical one here on b2. Still, I think black cannot do so much, I think, even with this move queen to b2. But here, as I said, first a move g5, deflecting the queen, getting the queen out of the dark squares, and now after knight to d7 we have rook to c8, but now c3 we have h6 g5, and in this position black resigned because we can even take with the bishop. We can even now trade off the queens. We're simply better here. We have three minor pieces for a rook and a minor piece. I think this is simply too much to handle. We can even try something like knight to g3, kicking away the queen, and similar ideas. So okay, that was, I think, a very instructive game because first of all, we should realize, as I said, this idea after potential trades of bishops, bishop to a6, black wants to get rid of the bad bishop, but basically it helps white out because now the queen comes out with the tempo, and we have now an extra tempo, and we have immediate preparation for castling. So it's a good idea by black. It's a good positional idea, but you see now white is simply faster. White continues his attack, and that's why I think we should make this kind of progress. So let's see now another example. Again, the same setup in the game. Again, h4. That's our main goal. The next instructive chess game that I wanted to show you. It's a game played by Boris Chatabalchev against Stefan Djuric. Here again, h5 can be played. As I said, black can sometimes stop a little bit white's progress with the move h5 to try never allow this h5 move. But now comes queen to d2. Queen to d2 is very important because we're staying with the queen on this diagonal. That's our main goal. Like maybe if you're familiar with the Dragon Sicilian, the Yugoslav attack, where we're building the queen and bishop battery, and we want to get rid of the bishop with potential bishop to h6 move. It's of course not possible, but you see now black has already challenged the center, and after potential c takes d4 and e takes d4, you see the bishop and queen get connected again, and then we can create this idea to trade off the bishops, and again try some g4 pawn breaks, just an h5, maybe get the queen on h6 somehow, and creating again a queen and rook battery on the h file, and again this very nice checkmate threat. So bishop to a6, again black is trying to do this positional trades of pieces. We play now bishop to f3 because we get out of the range. We got an extra tempo. Black didn't play immediately the move bishop to a6. Black played, of course, first the move h5. Now we want to get rid of the diagonal because still we have now a great activity around the square d5. You see a potential knight outpost on e4 is not possible, and still we can make progress now with the move g4. We can really crack the position, open the position, and maybe after queenside castling, getting some rooks on the g and h file and creating really some madness on these two files. So in the game, e6 was played by black, castling, and now you see b5. Okay, black makes some progress, of course, on the queen side, but now he leaves, of course, his c5 unprotected, so that's why d takes c5. We have b4, and now knight to b1. This is now very important to see how Boris Chatabalchev defends this, because there is really this important setup I wanted to memorize with the knight on b1, queen to d2, and when the queen comes to a5. So, of course, it seems so that something went wrong, because here we have a weak pawn on a2, but now you can play a3, and you see now we're playing this very important defensive strategy here against the queen, and now we want maybe even trade off the queens, because we have grabbed the pawn, it's not a bad choice, I think. And if we grab another pawn, maybe trading off the pieces, trading off the queens of the board, going into a simplified endgame where we have two extra pawns, I think is also a nice strategical idea in the middle game. So knight from f to d7, knight takes d7, knight takes d7, and now queen to b4. As I said, we want to simplify the position. Queen takes c5, and now bishop to d6. And here black tried to stay with the queens on the board, but black lost now the rook. After rook to c8, we have knight to c3, and now knight to f8, e4, simply breaking the position. I'm not going to show you now the whole game. It's not a point. I hope you realize we have now, we are up the exchange. We have played a great game. We have here still 3 pawns against 1 pawn on the queen side. So I think in this particular position, our main goal is to simplify it as much as we can and go into favorable endgame. As I said, I really don't like to show these games from this tactical point of view, what happens, what the result was like. I think this is a playable position, and Boris Chatabalshev played here an outstanding game, and with the idea. But the most important thing is to realize this moment in the game when your opponent plays the move h5 to go now into this queen to d line, queen to d2 line, and now after bishop to a6 we have now bishop to f3. And you may be the judge of this position. I want you really to evaluate all of your minor pieces on the board. The knight is perfectly fine. The bishop is perfectly fine. Now the bishop on f3 is perfectly fine. The knight on c3 is on a natural square. The queen is on a good square. We can now prepare queenside castling. We will have then afterwards also the rook connection on the first rank. We can break through, create breakthrough motifs with g4, g takes h5, and similarly. So I think from this point on, it's already a comfortable game here for white. So let's see now another example. Again, this b6 idea. We have h4. The next instructive game that I wanted to show you today, it's Vladimir Okhotnik. I really have trouble sometimes to read these last names, against Zvan Ziga. And here after the move h5 we go again into this queen to d line, and here black tries a similar idea, but with the idea to maybe create a knight outpost on e4. Now after castling we have knight to c6, and now f3. F3 is very important whenever you play your knight on e5, then to restrict this knight's ability to jump on a very active square e4 to simplify the position. And now again in this barrier attack, our main goal is the g4 pawn breakthrough. Here in the game knight takes e5, we have bishop to e5, bishop to h6, and now g4. H takes g4, we have f takes g4, knight to e4, knight takes e4, d takes e4, but now you see g5, and again it seems to me that we're simply faster. Bishop to g7, we got rid of a very nice piece of the key defender in front of the king. Queen to c3, very nice move, getting the queen on the same diagonal. We have f6, and now we could have also tried something like d takes c5, but here I think white played even a better move. h5, simply breaking all of the pawns in front of the king. We have queen to d5, and now g takes f6, e takes f6, and now we have this idea, d takes c5 with an attack, and now rook to d7. And see all of these pieces playing in such a great harmony here. Rook takes rook to f7, and now h6 in this position. Black resigned, because if you want to stay on this diagonal, then we can of course play bishop to c4. It's game over. We can also try h7, h8, but that's not the point. It's of course a completely losing endgame here for black. The most important thing, as I said, in this setups is to realize these ideas of blacks. If black, for instance, as I said, plays the move bishop to a6, we can go h4, h5. If he takes, bishop takes e2, queen to e2, and then really to break the position, even with the positional sacrifice. If he goes bishop to b7, then it's very important to restrict this square for the knight, because black will also try maybe a potential outpost here on e4. Then it's very important to play the move f3 and continue with our g4, h4, h5 motif. So okay, I hope that you realize these ideas. This was this London system against the Grunfeld setup with b6, with this double fianchetto, with this positional trade of pieces idea. We'll continue now also this barrier attack against other systems, against other setups of blacks, but with what the cool part about the berry attack is, as I mentioned also in my previous video, is that we can play basically the same move order all over and all over again. We cannot, we don't have to calculate, I think, so much in the beginning. We can play on normal setups, on great positional ideas, and I think the idea in these types of setups is really clear. We can create really a fast flank attack and have really a comfortable game from move one. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Meanwhile, you can watch my other London System series videos. Here is the link. And if you have troubles maybe to play as black, check out my hyper accelerated Dragon Sicilian defense series as a defense against e4, and my King's Indian defense series as a defense against d4. And if you like this content, you can also subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.